Oh man, this is beautiful. What a beautiful theater. Kamar Joba, I said that okay? Okay, good. Hey, so I'm Amrit Dhir. I'm from Google for Startups, as you heard from Colin, and I'm going to take the next 30 minutes and talk to you about learning from Moonshots, bringing out lessons for innovators, for startup founders, from some of the things that I've worked on at Google. But to get a sense of the room, how many of you are startup founders? You raise hands. Okay, so about a third of the room. Oh my God, look at the people up there. Those are the best seats, actually. That's pretty cool. And then how many of you are innovators in some other way, whether it's in a corporate or maybe in government or some other capacity? Okay, so total we're like half the room. Who's everyone else? No, like really, who's everyone else? Anyone? Anyway, who are you? Attendants. Yeah. But why are you here?
Searching ideas.
Oh, okay. So you're an aspirant, aspiring to be an innovator. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about this for about 30 minutes. Like I said, I actually would love, if there are any questions, just to throw them out there. Interrupt me. I'm very informal, you'll find. But I'm going to make this very practical. So I like to talk about these crazy ideas that I've worked on at Google, but I want to draw out lessons that you can all use. So I'm going to have 4 lessons in this talk. And I'm going to talk about, again, this idea of moonshots. How many of you have heard of a moonshot before? I know it's very American, like, we went to the moon, great. But the idea is important, right? The idea that you have these ambitious projects that you don't even know how to do yet. You're just doing them because they're not incremental, but 10x thinking. That's what I'm going to talk about today. But I think it's important because startup founders, you're also working on something crazy, something ambitious. So I'm going to draw out 4 lessons, and I'm also going to use some help from videos because I think hearing me talk for 30 minutes can be very boring. So I'll have some help from my friends. Actually, how many of you have seen that video before? Anyone? 1 person. Okay, cool. Good. About me, just very quickly explaining why I'm talking about this. The first thing you need to know, there's just 3 things. I like 3s. I'm going to take off my shoes because I'm informal. Number 1 is I'm really stupidly lucky. So all those people in that video, they're like astrophysicists and chemists and computer scientists. I was a lawyer, and I just got really, really lucky to find people like that throughout my career. And the second thing that's relevant is that I really like adventure. So even though I find these people, I find them and I hang on to them for dear life because I love working on crazy projects. They make money, they don't make money, they lose a lot of money. But in any case, they're ambitious projects. They're more of an adventure that I go through. And I've been at Google now for almost 9 years, and I worked on a team called New Business Development. And what we did was business strategy and partnerships for all of these early stage projects, these moonshots at Google. And what that means is working with small teams, usually of engineers and product managers, and figuring out how do we take this product to market? How do we launch this thing? Where do we launch this thing? What is the business model behind it? And then once we figure all of that out, actually negotiating the partnerships to make it happen. Does that make sense? Oh, good. Oh, good. I need some interaction. Or was it the same guy in red? It was you again. Okay, fine. Here are some of the things I worked on. I won't talk to you about all of them because this could take on forever. But let's just do a few. How many of you have heard of X? Okay, so for those of you who have not, you actually just saw a video about X. X is the moonshots factory at Google. We work on things like self-driving cars, like Project Loon, these balloons that provide internet access throughout the world, throughout remote areas. Google Glass. How many of you know about Google Glass? Oh, lots of people. So also lots of failures within X, which is important because as many of you who are startup founders have probably heard, celebrating failure is important, recognizing that when you're so ambitious and when you're trying to do something big, you're going to stumble, you're going to fall. And these are the projects that I worked on that I think are in many ways the most challenging because you don't know what is going to work yet. The Cultural Institute, anyone know that? Maybe some of the government folks? Check out the Cultural Institute. So we have actually some Georgian partners on the Cultural Institute. These are museums that have their content on our platform. You can go visit museums as if you were there, even if you're in San Jose, for example. And then here are some of the other things. And again, these are all very early stage projects, even ones that have become massive like Android. You know, one day, Android now has over 1 billion users. In the beginning, it was a small team within Google working on this crazy, crazy project. How many of you, can I go down here? How many of you have heard of Verily? Ooh. Oh, you've heard of Verily, good. One, any others? Verily? Two? Okay, good. So Verily, whatever, I'll explain it. Verily used to be called Google Life Sciences. Oh, this is so much fun. I can hear myself now. Verily used to be called, everyone wants to crane their necks, I'll turn around. Google Life Sciences. So the idea here was, what if we take Google's core strengths and we apply it to the human body, right? So think about computer science, machine learning, the things that Google is really good at, the things that you know Google for, and let's think about human health. And how can we better human health? And the first project we ever announced was this one. Can someone tell me what this is? Yeah? Contact lens, exactly. You're cheating a little bit because it says. but it's fair. Yeah, but you were right. But what does it do? What's that? Vision enhancement? No, but we're getting there. Diabetes, there we go. This is a glucose monitor. Actually, in fact, I won't take off my clothes, but I have one right here on my arm. And this is a very new device. I'll show it to you later when I get really hot. But this is a glucose monitor, meaning it will tell you, it will be tracking your tier glucose levels. So as a diabetic, you need to prick yourself a couple times a day and check your blood sugar, because if it gets too high, you're going to need to go take some insulin or go for a run. If it gets too low, you have to eat something. And I found out about this a couple years ago before the team was working on it, and I got really, really excited because I'm diabetic. I'm type 1 diabetic, and I realized that Google here was working on something that would change the way I live with my disease for the rest of my life. And this is especially exciting because it means that I'm getting regular tracking of my glucose monitor levels, my glucose levels. Right now, if I prick my finger, I do it when I think about it. I do it after I eat, I do it in the morning, but I'm not getting a regular, constant check to know what's happening all the time. Now that's changed, and I now, like I said, have a glucose monitor, but when I saw this, I thought, what an easy way to be able to make sure I'm healthy all the time. And so, I joined the team, and even though I hate science, or I don't hate it, I'm glad it exists, but I'm bad at science. And so I was, this is not an area that I know much about, but I wanted to be involved in something that would be this game-changing. And so I worked on a project called Baseline, and like I promised, there's going to be videos and lessons. I'll start with a video here. This was the initial tagline for this internally was Google Maps for the human body. And this video will tell you a little bit more. Maybe not. Let's see, do I have to press the button again? Yeah.
What if you could impact the health of millions of people just by sharing your personal health story? History has shown that when people come together and take action, they can change the course of humanity. Project Baseline is a team of scientists, doctors, designers, engineers, patient advocacy groups, and participants with a bold mission to explore health with incredible depth and detail. We begin by seeking 10,000 people who share our vision to join us. With new tools and technologies, you'll participate in clinic visits, record changes in health, and track daily habits. You'll gain insights into your own health and be part of a larger movement to accelerate discoveries so we can better understand health and prevent disease. We all have something to contribute. Join us. Make your mark on the map of human health.
Great. Okay, so I'm back here now. Thank you. So that's Project Baseline, and how many of you think this is really super exciting? Raise your hands. Okay, how many of you think this is kind of scary and creepy? Raise your hands. Okay, it's more on the exciting side and more on a few on the creepy side. I think that this is interesting, and I think that you can hear by the Vanilla Sky voiceover, like, ooh, the future. I think this is an interesting frontier for technology, and I think it's also one that's a little bit unnerving, right? If you imagine private information, private health information, if you think about your human genome, there's no way to make that anonymous. It's you. And so I think this is kind of the frontier that many different companies are on the verge of and figuring out these kind of privacy issues. But that's a tangent. I do lots of tangents. So if you ask me questions, I will also talk about random shit. Oh, can I say shit in here? Okay. Shit. Project Baseline. I worked on this, like I said, for about a year and a half. It was super exciting. So think about this, 6 terabytes of data on each of these individuals, thousands of people that we would be tracking over the course of a number of years. And so it's both a longitudinal clinical study, meaning we track regularly for a number of years, and a in-depth assessment of individuals like we've never seen before. We've never had this amount of data on individuals, and by the way, they own the data. That's really important. So you, as a participant of the study, will actually have your own data. And actually, my dad is in this study. Just randomly. I sent him a WhatsApp message one day when they had signups, and then 6 months later, he sent me a photo. He's like, "Look at my new Google Watch." I'm like, "What Google Watch?" And he had the study watch, and I was like, "I worked on that," and he had no idea. But anyway, so my dad is doing this, and so he's going to have more data on him than any other human has had in human history. And I think it's really exciting. But I promised you lessons, and the lesson here for startup founders, but actually for everyone, is don't do everything yourself. You need to partner. And this is important, because one thing that I think startup founders often fall into the trap of is thinking that they can solve every part of a problem. And in a way, the motivation for this comes from a good place. Right? You are motivated to do something. It may be a moonshot. It may be something more closer to your problem. But you know that there's a problem and you want to solve it. And so your intention often is to solve every part of that problem. Solve all the way around the problem. When in fact what you need to do is just solve one small thing and work with others for the rest. So going back a slide, if that's possible. Ooh, it's possible. If you look here, Verily worked with many different partners along the way. There's only 4 down there, or 3 really. Google was a partner because it's a different company. But actually there were over 100 partners to make this happen. And my job was to navigate and negotiate the operational partnerships. So imagine doing a clinical study, right? You're going to have patients come in, you're going to select patients. Google's not going to have people coming into to our front door in the offices and talking to us and having nurses there. That's going to happen through Stanford and through Duke, through these universities that do this, that have clinical studies. Also, we're going to take your blood and your shit and your urine. I'm going to say shit many more times, just because I can. And Google can't. We're not going to do that. So we work with partners, and we work with clinical partners in this case. So I was negotiating deals with different labs. Oh, am I talking fast? No? Okay, I always talk fast. Because I'm American, or I'm Californian actually. Californians talk faster than everyone else, and I had a lot of coffee this morning. I will try to talk slower. So that you have clinical partners in that sense, and then you also have labs that are partnering with you. And then you store these materials, your shit and your urine and blood, and we want to store it for not only a few months, but for years and even decades, because that is the data that's really valuable. That's how we know when someone develops cardiovascular disease or cancer, we want to see over the course of time how their blood samples have changed, how their metabolomics have changed. And those are the kinds of things that we need to keep on doing. And so this team at Verily, I think, does a really good job of something that's really hard to do, which is to recognize that you're not going to solve everything yourself, right? In this case, with the contact lens, for example, we build the technology, just that little microchip, the antenna, the radio signal. And then we work with a pharmaceutical company to bring it to market, to do FDA trials, to do the marketing and all of that, because we can't do that well. And so for startups, my lesson here is figure out what your core competency is. What is the thing that you're going to do that no one else can do that well, and then partner with others to make the rest happen. I see nodding. That's good. Does it make sense? Yay! Great. Okay. Next one. Google Helpouts. Who's heard of Google Helpouts? Exactly. Nobody. This is a video also. I think you guys press it twice to make it work. Yeah. Oh.
Too much light is going to overexpose the photo. I'm going to tell you what to do. We're going to fix it. Now on the right side, I want you to look for the curve tool.
See if you can soften your shoulders towards each other. Yeah, there you go.
Put your middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D string and put your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the A string. Give that a try. Yeah, that's it. Perfect.
And I'm gonna have you sweep that color right underneath just to really give them a little bit of extra definition. See? That looks great. That really brings out those big, beautiful eyes.
So, before you fold the egg whites into the cake, the trick is to stir just the first third in. That way, you get a more even texture throughout the cake.
Selfies here. Okay. Perfect. All right, okay, selfie time is over. So Google Helpouts. This was a very ambitious project for its day. This was about 5 years ago now, and I spent a lot of my life on this project. You see the idea, real help from real people in real time. Actually, I think I had that in a slide. This was supposed to be the future of search, Search 2.0. And the guy who was leading this project is a guy named Udi Manber. He was formerly the head of search of Google. Before that, he was the chief algorithms officer at Amazon. And his idea was, we have all of this information already indexed, all the world's written information is indexed by Google and searchable, and our mission is to make the world's information universally accessible. But how about the information in your head, right? Like when I want to learn Georgian before I come to Georgia, how do I do it if I live in San Francisco? Google, yeah, exactly. I have to use Google. But the thing is, I can find information, I can find how to say some words, but I can't have someone there teaching me yet. And so the idea here was, well, let's just get someone from Tbilisi to actually be on video chats and to talk with me, and we'll pay that person through Google Wallet, which is now called Google Pay, and we'll do it through Hangouts and Calendar and all of the big integrations. And so this was, again, the idea of getting the information in people's heads, like fixing your yoga pose, helping you with makeup, having all of that on a video platform, because that's the future of search. It's people to people, not written document to people. By the way, what is this logo? Does anyone tell me what's happening here? It's a person waving, yeah? Help me, yeah, exactly. Anything else? What is it? A baby. Yeah, maybe, yeah, I don't know. Last time someone told me a wheelchair. Someone thought it was a person in a wheelchair. I asked last time. I'm here to help. I'm ready. Yeah, so like, I'm ready, I need help, hello. It's a Rolodex. Did you guys have Rolodexes here? Not anymore. Yeah, some people know what Rolodexes are. Anyone see anything else? Any engineers in the room? Yeah, do you see anything else besides what we just talked about?
Yeah, a man is drowning in the ocean.
A man is drowning in the ocean. Shit. That's actually what happened to Helpouts. It was a man drowning in the ocean, and so we chose the wrong logo. If we'd chosen a better logo, everything would have been fine. So we had a really great marketing team with us, and the team was about half business and half engineering. Now, mostly when I work on a team, it's like all engineers and then 1 or 2 business people, usually me and someone else. But this one was actually a very big business initiative, because to launch something that's a marketplace and consumer-facing is a big endeavor. And so when the marketing team showed this logo to the broader team, all of us business people were like, yeah, it looks great, I'm asking for help. And then the engineers were like, why do we have a dinosaur as our logo? You saw it, right? Yeah, you should have said it. This is a dinosaur with the moon, and this is Helpo, the Helpouts dinosaur. Anyway, this is what happened to Helpouts. It failed. We shut it down about a year after we launched it, and it was sad, and I still have nightmares about Helpouts because I really love this product. But the lesson here for founders and for innovators is, first of all, actually it's kind of cheating, it's 3 lessons. First of all, fail. And failing is really important, because if you don't fail, you're not going to learn, you're not going to succeed, and you're not going to be able to move. And one of the problems that we had here was we weren't ready. We weren't like psychologically ready to fail. And so even when things were going really bad, we didn't actually acknowledge that there had been failure and that we need to do something else. It took us a long time to get there. And even when we did get there, we weren't listening, because there were lessons to be learned from this, and there were bright spots. There were things that worked in Google Helpouts. For example, computer tech support was a great area where people were using the products, they were paying for sessions, and they were happy with the outcome. And the suppliers, the people on the services side were really happy. New parents, that was a segment that was really growing in this. Because if you're a new parent and you don't have grandparents around to help you, you need someone there to tell you your kid's okay, the cough is okay, and by the way, you're willing to pay for that. So we had these bright spots, but we didn't do enough to learn from them. And I think there's a humility involved in failure, and there's a humility involved in listening. And only through doing those two things can you actually learn. So that's the lesson I have here. And I think this is also a broader cultural lesson. Often, even if the founder is okay with failing, society doesn't let him or her do that, right? We think, oh, you're a loser, you suck. But I think as a society, we need to learn to accept, and actually in some ways, celebrate failure. Someone tried something, it didn't work, but hey, that's great. Let's see what this person tries next. Rapid eval. I don't know how much time I have left, but I think I have like 10 minutes, right? They'll kick me off stage. Rapid eval, this is a team within X. It stands for Rapid Evaluation. And this team's mandate, what we were supposed to do, I'm going to break this, is kill ideas. The whole project was to kill ideas. I'm going to show you a small segment of a video from Astro Teller, who you saw in the first video. He's the CEO of X. And this is a great video. You should watch the whole thing. It's a TED Talk. Watch it on YouTube. But I'll play you just a small clip of one thing that I worked on.
Here's another huge problem. We pay enormous costs in resources and environmental damage to ship goods worldwide. Economic development of landlocked countries is limited by lack of shipping infrastructure. The radical solution? A lighter-than-air, variable buoyancy cargo ship. This has the potential to lower, at least overall, the cost, time, and carbon footprint of shipping without needing runways. We came up with this clever set of technical breakthroughs that together might make it possible for us to lower the costs enough that we could actually make these ships inexpensively enough in volume. But however cheap they would have been to make in volume, it turned out that it was going to cost close to $200 million to design and build the first one. $200 million is just way too expensive because X is structured with these tight feedback loops of making mistakes and learning and new designs. We can't spend $200 million to get the first data point about whether we're on the right track or not. If there's an Achilles heel in one of our projects, we want to know it now, up front, not way down the road. So we killed this project too.
And I realized actually I probably have 5 minutes because I looked at my watch and I realized I'm late. Hey, how did you guys get up there? There's no one else there. You have the whole row to yourself. Oh, like the king and queen, maybe? Okay. This is a crazy project. Do you guys know what Zeppelins are? Airships? Yeah. Did you guys used to have them in Georgia? Was it big? Okay. So back 100 years ago, everyone thought airships were going to change the world. That we were going to travel around the world in these big balloons in the sky. They were like the Hindenburg. You guys know about the Hindenburg? This big disaster. It blew up and people died and it was awful. So that kind of actually killed the whole movement. But there's a segment of people in many different industries, especially in transportation, who believe that this is coming back. And I actually think it's a pretty interesting idea because airships are more sustainable, so they're more green than airplanes we fly around in today. There's many innovations that have happened in the 100 years since that can make these things faster, more convenient, etc. Also, this is huge. Those are people. You guys see the people? Right here. These are people. It's huge. Holy shit, you gotta say. It's so big. But by the way, I took off my clothes. By the end of this, I'll be naked. But this is, here, you can see it. That's my glucose monitor. So now, I don't have the contact lens, but I have this, which is cool. Not Google, but someone else. So the idea here is, this was a business problem. So usually the rapid eval team is thinking about things from a technical standpoint, right? We need to build a space elevator, or we need to build, God, what are some of the other crazy ideas? Like, well, you can look them up. Watch the video. This one was actually a business challenge. We can build this. This is a 100-year-old technology. We can do this today. So the question was, does it make sense to do it from a business standpoint? And that's where I came in and my teammate came in to look at whether this hypothesis that we had was actually valid, which is that today, if you're shipping goods, let's say from mostly China to mostly the US, you have two options. One is by airplane, and it's going to be really fast. It'll get there within a day, much less, and it'll be really expensive per ton mile. Your other option is take it by ocean liner. That'll take a few weeks. It'll be slower, but it's so cheap per ton mile. Our idea was, what if there's something in the middle that pulls enough people from this category and pulls enough up from the other category and builds a whole new business model that is actually also sustainable and progressive. And that was the idea here. And we ended up killing this idea. And by the way, not only is this huge, but if you see the crane, it can actually refuel while in the air. In addition to dropping goods and dropping people and lifting them up, it would never need to land. So you could go to like rural parts of Brazil or Sub-Saharan Africa, for example. Anyway, I could talk about this forever. I have lots of tangents. I think I have like 0-3 minutes left or something. But this project we killed eventually. We decided it wasn't worth doing for business reasons. And the lesson I learned here was that you should talk to people, and you should talk to these experts, and you should talk to them early on. We didn't do this well. In this case, you had this top secret project that even people in my own company couldn't know about. And even now I can only talk about it because Astro spoke about it at TED. But we were so secretive that even when I was talking to the head of global logistics at Google, this guy John, the guy who's in charge of shipping everything from small devices like Chromecasts and phones all over the world to big infrastructure for Google's data centers. He's the one who does this, and he does it through FedEx and UPS and all these other parties. I was asking him questions because I was doing the business research. I was like, hey, John, how much does it cost for you to ship a Chromecast from here to here? And he gave me the answer. But I couldn't tell him why I was asking. And so even though I got answers to these questions, I didn't get more questions from him, right? I needed a thought partner. And in the end, when we knew we were going to kill it, and I finally went to John and I said, here's what we're working on, he said, oh, you should think about this, or you should talk to the FedEx innovation team, or did you know about this other opportunity? And because he was there and he was able to sit with me and think about it with me, it was far more valuable. And for startup founders, this is super important, because you're working on something that you probably think is really secretive, really special, and it probably is, but you're probably thinking, I need to protect this, I need to not tell anyone about it. I'm in stealth, as startup founders like to say. And I want to push against this completely. And I think 99% of the time, you're doing yourself a disservice. Now, there's maybe 1% where your IP is really special, or there's some reason why you need to keep it secret. But usually, ideas, they're not that special. Ideas, if you've got something that you think is going to go somewhere, someone else thinks the same, and they're working on it too. Where you're going to win is on execution. Not on the ideas, but on the execution. And in that sense, you're going to learn from people who know about that industry, who know about what you're trying to do, but also people who are going to be your users, right? The people who you think are going to use your product, talk to them early, ask them questions, break through that maybe sometimes insecurity or this hypersensitivity, and actually share what you're working on with the world and let them test it. I think I'm really over time. How am I doing? I'm over, okay. Like, stop talking. Last thing, very quickly, I'll just talk about, and actually there's many videos online, but I won't show you a video for this one. But it's Google for Startups, and it's what I work on now. And Colin told you a little bit about this before, but basically our mission is to help entrepreneurs all over the world, and especially in places outside of California and outside the United States. We do this in a couple different ways. I think I have videos on this. We're all over the world. I know we're not in Tbilisi yet, but let's see what we can do. But the idea here is that there are innovations everywhere, and there are people working on interesting ideas everywhere, and the world has changed, and not everything happens in the small 20 square miles of Silicon Valley. These are some of our spaces: London, Madrid, Sao Paulo, Warsaw. We also have a space in Seoul and Tel Aviv. Tokyo is launching this week. So this is where we run our own spaces for entrepreneurs, and we want them to come in and work with each other because that sense of community is really important, and talking to people early is really important. And that's our website. For those of you who are entrepreneurs, you want to find out what we have to offer. We have cloud credits. We have different programs through Android, the Play team, and some of the other teams that you can find on there. But the lesson here that I want to draw out, and I think this is really important, and this is a sign of how the world is changing, not even is changing, has changed. The fact that now you can work on your product from behind your laptop in Tbilisi, and you can have the same access to the same technology that I have in San Francisco is super, super important. And I think it also means not only are we going to have this geographic diversity, where ideas that are built for Georgians are coming from Georgia, but also it means that we're going to have more women founders, we're going to have more diverse communities, because one of the problems when you have only people who look like me, white and Asian males living in San Francisco, solving every problem for everyone, and that everything that exists on this device comes from the same place, is you get this homogeneity of ideas and this homogeneity of execution. That's changing, and so I want to encourage all of you, and I want you all to feel inspired and motivated to know that you can do what has been done in California for so long. You can do it from here. And I see already, I'm preaching to the choir, what Colin and you all are part of is a big community that already is innovating. And I'm going to skip the video, but there, appendix, you don't want that. Appendages. That's it. That's my talk. Go to our website. That's all the lessons. I'm putting my shoes back on. Thank you. I learned thank you yesterday. Don't tell me. Madlabar. Yeah. Cool.